All right. Welcome, everyone. We're so excited that you guys are joining us this afternoon. Welcome to the last Success Series webinar on change. Not the last webinar ever, just the last of our series on change. I know that, we talked a little bit about, the different stages of change. We talked about how to communicate change in a positive manner. And now we're going to talk about coping strategies. Like when you hear change or receive that change is coming, how do you cope through it? So we have some wonderful strategies, and I hope that you guys will share your tips and tricks as well. So my name is Kimberly Broussard.
I'm Nathan Barnaba.
And we have an exciting new team member. We'd like to welcome Tara Gallup. She is the newest member of our Success Series webinar team, and we're so excited to have her.
It's nice to see all of you, and I'm excited to get to chat with you today.
She is going to be our producer, which means that she'll be dropping questions in chat and sharing some of your tips and tricks that you type in there as well. All right. And so here's how you guys are going to communicate with us. Your chat button at the bottom of the screen, you're going to click chat. Remember to select all panelists and attendees so that everyone will be able to see all of the wonderful tips and tricks you're going to put in there. All right. So we're going to cover coping strategies today. When we think about change, sometimes it especially when change is coming our way all the time, it's tough to deal with sometimes. And so we're going to help you, navigate through those feelings and come up with some coping strategies so that you can adjust to the change. Now, Nathan, when I think of coping strategies, I think of my go-to strategy. And this is the strategy that I use fairly often. So whenever I am stressed or change is happening and I feel overwhelmed, I go out and I take a long walk. I don't bring my music with me. I don't bring anything with me. I just walk and I listen to the sounds and listen to the calmness and just try to focus on my breathing as I'm walking, through my neighborhood. Do you have a go-to strategy with coping with change? And we want to hear from you guys in chat as well.
I do. What I do is it's kind of the same thing. I meditate on it. So what I realize is when I hear change, I have to get my emotions in order first. So I take some time, and people think that meditation is just you're sitting in a corner being quiet, but it can be a walk, listening to nature. It's anything that you can do to calm your emotions and just process the thoughts. Because at first, when you hear about change, you get those feelings of fear, uncertainty. But once you process those feelings and just reflect on it, I feel like it calms me down a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there's a disadvantage with having a go-to strategy in any way?
I don't think there's a disadvantage, but I think the more strategies you have, the better equipped you'll be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there is an advantage of having a go-to strategy because you have that strategy that will work. But sometimes I find that when I start to walk, if I'm at a 5, that it'll work. But if I'm over a 5, I'm gonna have to have more tools in my toolbox to help calm me down.
Yeah, you have to stack them up.
Yes, I have to carry the whole toolbox with me and try a little bit of everything to help me get from, over a 5 to at least a 2.
Right.
So Tara, do you want to share some of the feedback we're getting in chat?
Yeah, so we have a lot of breathing exercises, taking deep breaths. Let's see. Mary said her go-to is let herself freak out and then force herself to calm down and make a plan, which is so realistic, and I understand that one. We have from Brooke. She gives the change a chance to happen and then asks plenty of questions. Ronald says Pilates, and Keitra makes a great point, says they can cope with change, but it's the dynamics that come with it that are scary.
I
like that.
Good one. And acknowledging thoughts, revisiting later. taking a step back. A lot of great things happening in this chat.
Thank you,
And
Tara.
4-letter words.
One of the chats that you guys said in there is asking yourselves a lot of questions. And I loved all of the answers you guys are giving to me, but it made me think about allowing yourself to feel those emotions. And then, calming yourself down. I think that's a great one, because if you don't allow yourself to feel those emotions, then that feeling will just linger in the back until you're ready to go ahead and experience it.
Yeah, I agree.
One of the other comments that I also like is, asking yourselves questions. And one of the things that I find myself doing a lot is whenever I hear that about the change, I start to ask myself questions like, why is this change, happening? Why do I feel this way? I ask myself, a couple of questions. And not only do I ask myself, but I ask the person communicating that change. Mm-hmm. So Nathan, what are the questions you ask your supervisor or person communicating the change? And we want to hear from you guys in chat as well.
I usually ask, how does it affect me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do I have to adapt? Do I have to learn anything? I need to make that connection as to what my job is when it comes to the change. Mm. Do you have a go-to question?
I've always asked, why is this change happening? Mm-hmm. Like and I guess when you ask that question, it does kind of give you the benefits when answered. Like, I need to know why this, if it's work related, I need to know why this particular change is occurring, as in, how does it benefit us in regards to our overall goal?
Yeah.
I find that the more knowledgeable you are about the change, the better you are at being receptive towards it. So asking yourself the whys are, how does the WIFMs, what's in it for me? How does this benefit me? I find that it helps you, it helps calms those emotions down, because you know more about that change.
I agree. And, you raised a good point. Sometimes the change, it might not immediately affect you, and you have to do it. But knowing the why and the reasoning behind it, whether it's an improved process or just you're helping take care of customers better, you'll start to kind of accept it, because you know that it's for good and not just to mess up your life or your process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Tara, you want to share in chat for me?
Yes, there's so many good questions here. Several people are asking, why, when will it help us, or when will it affect us? How will it help us? Shannon made a great point. She said, when change comes, it is taken only as well as it is presented at times.
Love it.
Mm-hmm. And somebody asked, Lucretia asked, she asked if something was being done incorrectly, or was there an error on our part? And then Cody says, is it for a definite purpose or just for the sake of change? So will it be better for us? What are the effects? And when is it coming?
Oh, I love that. I see a lot of people said WIFMs, and I agree. The way that you deliver it does have a big impact on the way that it's received. And, we talked a little bit about that in the second series on change. And so if you present it in a manner where you're not psyched about the change, or I can tell that you don't care for it, then I'm going to have difficulty jumping on board and being more inclined to accepting that change.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So not only is it important for you to ask your supervisor or the person communicating change those questions for you to feel informed, but it's also important for you to ask yourself certain questions. Like, what's the worst that could happen? That's one of the questions that pop in my head. And when I think about it now, sometimes I can go a bit overboard. Like sometimes my head goes to the extreme. Like, what's the worst can happen? Oh, where the change doesn't work out and then the company goes belly up. Oh, well, that's excessive. Like that, it's probably not going to happen. It's a slim chance, like a 1% chance that that's going to happen. So I had to stop myself and be like, all right, what's the worst that can happen realistically, so that I don't go, to the opposite end. But what questions do you ask yourself, Nathan? Do you find yourself asking yourself questions?
I do. And Rachel kind of covered it. She said that you can't like let fear take over. And I always ask myself, what am I afraid of? There's a reason why I'm feeling the way about the change if I'm flustered. And a friend of mine told me it's called shadow work. And basically what shadow work does is you kind of analyze your emotions. You look at how you feel about a situation from a different perspective. So let's say I'm scared of a change. You keep asking yourself why, and you look at it, the emotion from a place of not judgment, if that makes sense. So you're kind of like a third party looking at the situation. And what you realize is that you're scared of nothing. Because if it's an improvement or anything, you're just scared of change, to let go of your current process and your current pattern of things.
So basically you're saying when we ask ourselves these questions, we're kind of doing a self-assessment. We're trying to analyze what is it about the change that we don't like. And then 9 out of 10 times, you might find out that, hey, whatever you were, fearful about had nothing to do with the change at all.
Yeah, it's like your emotions play a big part, because our emotions kind of tell us to fear things. And then whenever we realize that there's nothing to fear, it's like the boogeyman in the closet. Once we realize it, it's like, okay, I'm scared of nothing. Let me embrace this change.
That's a great analogy. Sarah, do we have some comments in chat?
Yes. And so I'll start by saying Ronald says he asks himself, can I do this? And he knows the answer, yes, but his anxiety sometimes take over. And then Shannon added that fear is false evidence appearing real at times.
I love that. Let me write that down.
Yeah,
that just blew my whole mind.
Say it again. False
evidence appearing real.
That's
I love that. Shannon.
That's good, Shannon.
Yeah.
So that's a great thing to say to yourself when your anxiety's taking over, when you have to make a change.
I'm definitely going to use that one, because I do find that, sometimes I'm just like Ronald. Sometimes my anxiety does take over. And that's why I try to have more tools in my toolbox to help me get down from over a 5.
Yeah.
So now that we talked about asking as many questions as you can about the change, then doing a little bit of self-assessment and determine, all right, why am I feeling this way? Now it's time for you to decipher, okay, what can I control and what can't I control?
Yes, and this is the important part, because think about it like this. Why stress over things that you can't control? Why let them eat you up if you know that you can't solve them? But something to help you is make a list. What's in your control? And in the chat, as I discussed this slide, I want to ask you guys, what can you control about the change? Some examples are, you can control your effort. You can control your emotions. You can control your response to the change. You basically can control yourself. You have yourself. If you embrace the change, or if you fight the change, you're kind of in a lose situation. You're in control of yourself, and that's something that we need to realize, that it's all in our minds.
And this is what I love about making a list of the things that you can control and things that you can't control. Because once you make that list of the things that you can't control, then you're going to look at that list and say, you know what, I can't control it. So why am I spending time on this? And focus on and put your main focus on things that you can control. That's what I'm a list person. So I am always doing the control and can't control. And you'd be surprised when you make a list and write down the things that you can control and can't control. You'd be surprised on how many hours or how all your feelings are spent on things that you cannot control.
Yeah.
So why are you stressing, getting gray hairs and spend that extra money on hair dye just to cover up those worry things when you could just, live stress-free by not focusing on the things that you can't control?
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, whenever you do your list, write down what you can control and what you can't control, and then tear up what you can't control. And what you can control, keep that with you. And that'll remind you that if you're flustered by something that's out of your control, then let it go.
That's true, because you have that list right in the forefront, and you're like, this is what I need to focus on. This is what's going to get me to where I need to be. So I love that. Tara, what do you have for us in chat?
Some good stuff. So a lot of people agree that they can control themselves or ourselves, our response and reaction to those changes, attitude, actions. Monica Smith said internal versus external reactions. And let's see. Rachel says when change approaches, sometimes you just have to take that leap of faith and see what happens when you land on your feet. And again, attitude and reactions we can control. We can't necessarily control our emotions, Ronald said, but time will help. And just taking a step back and acknowledging that your emotions are valid. And this is me responding to you guys, mentioning that you're realizing your emotions are valid and you can recognize them, then you can respond to them in a more calm and concentrated way.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what Tara said in one of the responses. I can't recall who said it, but allowing yourself to feel those feelings, allowing yourself to be in that moment and recognize how you're feeling, and then addressing that.
Yeah, don't ignore that feeling. Accept it first, because if you ignore it, it's just gonna stay. It's gonna stay stagnant. It's kind of like when people, the smallest thing, they blow up. It's because they still have that emotion that they're feeling. And that's what causes them to lose it, because they never got a chance to process it, acknowledge it, and kind of see where it stemmed from.
And I think once you do that little self-assessment and allowing yourself to feel, and then analyzing where those emotions stemmed from, and then doing your list of or a focus on the things that you can control, it allow you to be able to focus on the positives of the change.
So, and one more, Keidra said, accept, adapt, and improvise as appropriate.
I love that. I love that.
That's great.
I mean, you guys are some change gurus right here. This is awesome.
So back what Kim said about celebrating the positives, it's okay, once you realize what's in your control, and once you control your, let's say, your emotions, or it's a positive outcome, or make that step towards making that change. So for example, you have to learn a skill for improved process, celebrate it. One thing that I do, and I just started this, but whenever I make a move towards a goal of mine, I go to the local bakery. It's called Small Cakes, Cupcakes, and I get myself a cupcake and I celebrate, because it's change is hard. Whenever you go through something, celebrate your win. Celebrate us. It could be a small step, but you did it. You're progressing and you're moving forward.
And what I love about these strategies that we've come up with, I mean, you guys don't have to use every single strategy, but even when you're not only receiving change, but even when you want to implement change within yourself. So if I want to, which I do every year, and which is start a diet. If I'm not doing it at least every first Monday of the month, then I don't know what I'm doing. But when you make that change within yourself, you ask your questions. Okay, why am I doing it? Outline what the positives are about the diet. What are the positives of me making this change? Well, I'm going to feel healthier. I'm going to, to have more energy. It's important that you try to pick out the positives. One thing that I do love is in one of our workshops, we have an exercise where, they have a specific scenario and they have to identify the positives about that scenario. So the one that I love the most is they have to find the positives in communicating to their employees that they're moving from offices to cubes. Now, when you think about that, you're like, what positives could you find in moving from offices to cubicles? But it's amazing how when the groups come back and after they brainstorm, they at least have 3 or more positives about, moving from offices to cubes. And what I love about that is that even when we think we can't find a positive, there's no hope, you can find something positive about a change. If you just cannot stand in your way, your own feelings towards the change cannot stand in your way, you can find something positive. So I want you guys to tell me, what can you do to celebrate the positives? Drop it in chat for me. So Nathan, what can they do to celebrate the positives?
Well, I want to tell them about our little practice whenever we were in the office. Treat yourself Fridays. So Kim and we basically on Fridays, we got through the week. If we did anything that got us toward a goal or completion, we would treat ourselves. We would go downstairs and get us breakfast, or we would eat out. And it doesn't have to include eating. It could be your favorite thing, like watching your favorite movie or anything. But I truly believe in self-care and celebrating those things. And Treat Yourself Friday, I mean, y'all should try it. What about you, Kim?
Now you guys see why I can't diet, because I'm treating myself every Friday. But it's celebrating not only the positives, but celebrating even the little milestones that you make when you're doing the change. So if I'm making a change and I'm doing my diet, and so I might have just one little small treat or cheat meal on a Friday. It's just something small, a small reward, or even, buying me a new pair of shoes. It's just something that you do to celebrate even the little tiny, no matter how small it is. If you made a step towards that change, then you need to celebrate it.
Celebrate it, yeah.
Tara, what do you have for us in chat?
A lot of, just like Nathan said, about treating themselves. Ronald says he celebrates by having a beer. Sonia says just acknowledge it. Rachel looks forward for more blessings to come, and Caitlin likes to go buy herself some books, and that sounds so nice.
Yeah,
yes,
it does.
And Rhonda likes to shop.
I'm with you, Rhonda. I'm with you. I just said the other day that my biggest downfall, it's saying it's just $20 1,700 times.
Yeah.
Oh, Amanda says positive self-talk.
Ooh, and
you're proud of yourself.
Yes.
We're going to talk about positive self-talk. I'm glad. So hold on to that one. I'm glad that you mentioned it. And so, now that we're able to celebrate the positives, I think focusing on those positives is going to help change our mindsets about the change.
Now, Cody said it perfectly. He said, celebrating your small victories puts you in the mindset to welcome bigger victories. And that is a great point. And sometimes it's hard for us to find the positives. Sometimes we might want to, but if it happens too many times, and this happens to a lot of us, maybe it's time to take a step back and kind of refocus and change our mindsets. So that you may be experiencing burnout, which I'm excited to talk about with the next series that you guys voted on. But just take some time to think of it as a picture or a camera shot. And you're looking at it from one way, but there's always a good in some type of change. You can always find the good, whether it's something so simple like moving from an office to a cubicle. I could say, well, I'm moving next to my team members or something. It's just, you can always find the good, whether you appreciate it or not. There's something that you can appreciate.
And I think that, it's about getting in your own way. You might feel a certain way towards the change. And so, you really have to put forth the effort. It's not that, you hear about the change and you're like, Nope, I can't think of any positives. I tried my best. No, you actually have to do a little bit of soul searching and remove your emotions about the change and think about it with a clear head on,
Mhm.
you know, what are the positives about this change, and then changing your mindset around the change,
Yeah.
because it's important for you to be mindful too that, you know, your energy and it affects your teammates too. So it's okay to allow yourself to feel that way, acknowledge your feelings, but don't stay in that place.
Yeah, don't, because it could cause a chain reaction,
Mhm.
and everybody's gonna be mad about the change and not know why, just because you're there and you're griping and complaining about it.
Mhm. Tara, do we have any comments in chat?
Yeah, Danielle just said, if you can't change your mindset on your own, talk about it with someone you trust. Other perspectives can help.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes. We're going to talk about having that good support system, that go-to person
Mhm.
that you can share, that'll get you on the right path or the right mind frame.
Mhm.
So now that you're able to, you know, focus on it and try to change your mindset, it's important that you take action, set goals for yourself. And I'm not talking about, you know, a big goal. Like if you know, I'm going to use my diet example. Don't set the goal at, oh, I'm going to lose 30 pounds in 30 days. No. How about you start small? Because if you have that, you set that goal and it's too, it seems overwhelming when you look at it in that aspect. So try to say, okay, I'm going to lose 1 pound this week. And when you meet that goal, that's when you celebrate it and you move forward to the next goal. So Nathan, I'm going to ask you, as well as the audience members, what can you do to make sure that your goal's realistic?
Definitely make sure that it's manageable and doable. Going back to your example, kind of reminded me of like New Year's. There's this trainer I met, and he shared this article about how a lot of times on January we're like, by December I'm going to lose 80 pounds, but he talks about how you can shift your perspective and kind of say, you know what, by December I'm going to eat healthier. I'm going to eat more vegetables, things that you can control, because that way you're not really putting pressure on yourself, but you're also following that goal. You're moving towards it. You're just doing it in a way that you're not putting extra pressure on yourself.
Mm, I love that. I mean, you already have the pressure in regards to the change. You don't need to have your goals add that extra pressure, you know,
Yeah.
on yourself. Tara, what do you have in chat for us?
A lot of good advice. So Brooke says to start small. Nancy says make sure they are measurable. Danielle, make sure they're not extreme, and to forgive yourself if you fail.
Love it.
Monica says have accountability. Accountability partners can be everything. A lot of small steps, set timelines. And Mary says she tries not to set goals for the future because sometimes they can end up making her feel guilty if she can't complete them. Instead, she sets goals for what she can do today.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, that's some great advice in there. I love the accountability partner. Let me tell you, those really work. You know, I have an accountability partner, and it just having to face her. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do it. But I think it's beneficial to have that accountability partner, and to also allow yourself grace. Allow yourself, you know, grace. And I find my accountability partner does the same. She's always looking for the positives. So if I didn't, you know, eat healthy, you know, for breakfast or dinner, but I ate healthy for lunch, she was like, okay, kudos to you for taking the step and eating healthy for lunch. She picks out that positive to keep that encouragement and that motivation going. So I love that. You guys have some great things.
Before we move, that's a good thing. It's all about consistency towards your goal. So I wanted to talk about the SMART goals. I love that specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based. That's something that you can use to plan your goals. So that's cool.
Yes. So
one more I wanted to point out from Cody says, ask yourself what you want is the big picture, then work backwards from that and ultimate goal planning out each step, and then move forward one step at a time. So you're working towards that big picture, and you start from there and then work backwards.
That's some good advice.
Some good advice.
They're killing it in this chat.
Yes.
I know you guys are our little change strategy gurus. So, now that you're learning to set goals, you don't want to add that added stress. You want to make sure that you're managing stress. So Nathan, I know that you are the managing stress guru. I know that I've never seen someone who's so in tune and at one with themselves. So do you have any strategies for us on managing stress?
Yes, I do. But I want to preface it by saying that I wasn't always this mindful, stress-free person. It was in the year that we're not going to name that I was just stressed out and ready for it to end, that I had to seek within. And what I started doing was meditating. There was an app that I used. It's called Balance. And Balance it's free for the next year for anybody who signs up. And basically what it does is it teaches you the basics of meditation. It gives you a survey. It asks you what do you expect. You can set your environment to you're walking or you're at a gym, but what it does is it plays meditation that you can it fits your character. So if you don't believe in like over affirmations, it'll just give you like simple things that actually calms your mind. So I highly recommend meditation. Another method that I use in spur of the moment is called the box breathing technique. And I want us all to do just one round of it. So if you can right now, close your eyes, let out your current breath. Now I want you guys to inhale for 4 seconds. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now open your eyes. Don't you feel calm?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Like whenever I do it, I visualize inhaling positivity and exhaling all of the stress and things that are worrying my mind. Because like I said, that year of uncertainty that we're not going to mention, there was a lot of times when you're just like, I'm ready for this to be over, and you have to stay grounded. And I see someone mention Calm. Calm is another great app. It's another meditation app. And one thing I noticed, if anybody has HBO Max, Calm actually has episodes where it tells stories, or you can listen to beach noises. And what I do is sometimes when I'm working, if I'm stressed out or if I hit a wall in creating something, I'll put that on, and it helps me, like hearing that I'll feel calm, and it'll help me move towards whatever I'm stressed out about.
I mean, you could really have some great ideas, Nathan. And I think, that managing stress is really important, because it can get in the way of you accepting change and dealing with it. So I love that box breathing technique. I really think that I'm going to try it that way, because I did feel a calmer. And I think, look, the more tools you have in the toolbox, the better off that you are.
Mm-hmm.
Tara, do we have, sorry, Nathan, go ahead.
I want to say about the box breathing method, you repeat as necessary. Just one time, I mean, you feel better, but sometimes I'll do it 4 times, sometimes I'll do it 10 times. It just depends what's going on.
So if I'm at a 10, I'm probably going to need the 10 times.
Yes.
Tara, do we have any comments in chat? What are some things they do to manage stress?
Yes, Eliana does Zumba to release stress. Yes. Irene has compassion for herself and makes sure to take the time to do that. Ronald keeps bubble wrap nearby at all times, which is great. Brooke says to talk to someone you can trust. Cody says prayer and meditation. And Brooke also says to just walk away from the situation and regroup your mind. And something that I also added was Spotify actually has some great playlists that have different calming music or sounds depending on what you like. And they even have guided meditation podcasts. Like there are people that make these things. I fall asleep to them almost every night.
I love it. I love the little bubble wrap. If y'all come to my QV, I hear pop, pop, pop. they're like, oh, we're not gonna bother Kim right now. She must be at a 10.
Oh, and Keegan jump ropes to release stress.
Yes.
Interesting.
And I do something, no, not similar. I mean, exercise wise, jumping rope. I'm pretty sure, I haven't jumped roped in a long time, but I try and take walks. But I find though that when I'm at a 10, I have to walk a little bit longer. I think, from like here to Baton Rouge, and my body won't do it. So I'm definitely going to try that box breathing, because I did feel a little calmer. And I love what you said about inhaling the positivity and letting go of the negativity.
Yeah, it helps.
Mm-hmm. And I know Tara shared one of the comments about just being kind to yourself. And that's so important, you guys, about that positive self-talk. You are your biggest cheerleader. Sometimes we could be the hardest on ourselves. So I want us to take a step back. When you're in that negative spot, you're feeling those emotions, allowing yourself to feel those things and be an encourager to yourself. Sometimes, we want to beat ourselves up and like, why are you feeling this way? And we say negative things to ourselves. And some of the things we say to ourselves, we wouldn't say to our friends. So it's important for us to remember that before we say whatever we're saying to ourselves, that we be mindful and ask ourselves, would we say this to our friends if they were feeling that way? Or what would we say to our friends if they are feeling that way? So it's important to be kind to yourself. So I want you guys to drop in chat, and I'm going to ask Nathan, what are some things that you do to be kind to yourself?
Well, you named a good one. Whenever that self-talk, affirmations. There's another app that I discovered in that year that it's called I Am. And basically I Am, it's from a beginning, it's like 1 minute of affirmations. And as you become more experienced with it, it goes up to 15 minutes. And what it does, you can choose topics from career-wise, growth, self-talk, gratitude. And it could be a simple affirmation every 15 seconds. So it could be, I am smart. I am productive today. Today is going to be an amazing day. And at first, you're going to be like, why am I saying this? This is so corny. But what I realized is that as you get experience with it, you start to believe it. Mm-hmm. If I do an affirmation session, at the end of it, I'm feeling empowered. Like I could take over the world. Like it's just it helps shift your mind. It's a great practice that I highly recommend it. The app is called I Am.
And you're right, Nathan. I think the more things when you say something to yourself often, you do start to believe it. So it's important that we be kind to ourselves and have those positive affirmations and be our own cheerleader for ourselves. Because all we have, we have our family too, but you only have yourself. That you should be your best friend. So Tara, what do you have for us in chat?
They are rolling in and a lot of great stuff. Brooke says she allows herself to feel sadness to get back to her happiness. Monica uses music to escape. Ronald says when faced with a new task that he doesn't think he can do, he thinks back on a task in the past and gives himself recognition to motivate him to do the one at hand. Katanya likes evenings on the patio with nature to clear mind and mood and reset. Sandra likes to accept her feelings and that she is human and her feelings are real and that everything is okay. And let's see. Cody says, I am is a very powerful statement. I am brings your desire to the present. I will or I want to implies it will always remain out of reach. Ooh.
Those are some good ones. And I'm with Monica too. I use music to escape. So if you guys hear Whitney Houston's I Want to Dance with Somebody, and that is my go-to song. But yes, it's really important that, you are kind to yourself, allowing yourself to feel, speaking those positive affirmations, speaking it into existence. And it's also important for you to seek support. The right support group, it goes a long way. Mm-hmm. It really does.
So whenever you're going through change, in most cases, especially if you're a part of a team, everybody's going through it. So it can be a great idea for you to find someone on your team or someone that you trust. You know, like Kim and I, we trust each other, but find someone that you can kind of vent to and talk to. But also, but whenever you're doing that, make sure you find someone who's open-minded, because you don't want to turn your support system into a gripe session where all you're doing is complaining about the change and not moving forward. But you kind of want this person to be open-minded and listen to your side and say like, hey, maybe I see you're mad, but look at it this way. And that's important when choosing a support system, because that person, how they view it and how they help you shift your thoughts on the change can very well help you.
And you're so right. Finding the right support group or support person who has that positive mindset and who can see things from both aspects is really important. So I want to ask you guys, as well as Nathan, what are the advantages you think of having a support system?
I would say free therapy.
Yeah,
free group therapy.
Copay.
Right? Yeah, you feel better whenever because you can't keep everything in. If you can't journal it to yourself, talk to somebody, get it out. You feel a sense of relief after getting those feelings out and all of that stuff that you have like stuck in.
Right. And I think the advantages are having a different perspective, having someone with a different perspectives. And I think that's what I love about you and I, is that if I'm wrong, you'll come out and say, well, you were wrong in this part. And so, and this is why this is my thought. And so you give me a different perspective. And I think that's important to have. Tara, what do you have for us in chat?
Again, I mean, our attendees are just killing it. So, we're thankful that we have coworkers that can allow us to vent, someone to listen, a safe place to fall, have that sounding board, and knowing you're not alone. I love what Angela said. She says, allows you to let the air out of the balloon.
Ooh, yes, the air out of the balloon, a safe place to fall. Ooh, you guys are really bringing it today.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Melissa says it can help lessen your anxiety and reduce stress. And then Brooke says, if we don't have support from our work family and our daily jobs, we're doomed. So we should always be there for anyone that needs a shoulder or a lending ear.
Right. And like Nathan said, it's choosing the right person, someone that you trust, and that'll, keep that interaction confidential. So we've come to the end of our strategy series, our change series. Nathan, do you have any closing thoughts?
I just want to say, I'm pretty sure everybody that attended from the first session to now probably came in like, I need to learn about this change. But from the comments and the participation and sharing the tips, y'all are pros. If you sometimes all it takes is a group effort and seeking within. I learned so many things from everybody here, and I'm happy to use it. And together we all became change gurus and change pros. So I'm very happy with how this series came about.
We want to hear your closing thoughts as well. And, one thing that I want us to keep in mind is that, when we, in this series and you experience change, are you going to be like, oh yes, change? No, what I want you to remember is I want you to remember all of the things and the strategies that we've talked about, and find the strategy that works for you. Find something that helps you allow yourself to feel the way you feel. Don't stay in that place, and work on moving forward and transitioning through the change. So Tara, do we have some comments in chat? Any final thoughts?
Yes, we do have some final thoughts. Brooke said, always think that someone may be going through something, and to be mindful of that. You don't know what everybody's going through. Got a lot of compliments. Right, Nathan? Take your own advice. kindness is key. Kindness to yourself and others. Stay positive to any change. And a lot of compliments for you guys because this has been awesome. They love watching it, and I'm with you guys. I mean, this is my first time participating on the panelist side, but I love watching these. So kudos to our panelists.
Thank you guys. I hope you found that this series on change was beneficial, and everything that we're talking about, that we talked about today, and even our past webinars, we have handouts for you guys that's going to include all the information and tools that we've covered today. So you can find those handouts as well as those past handouts on our talent development page under Success Series webinar. You're going to click on it and it's going to bring up all the past handouts that we've done. And if you would like to find a past webinar or rewatch this one, you can find us on YouTube. What you're going to do in the search field, you're going to type Louisiana State Civil Service. And if you don't have access to YouTube, guess what? If you guys remember, we're in Leo too. We're everywhere. You can, in the search bar, type in webinar, and you can find the webinars there in case you don't have access to YouTube. Now, if you guys remembered from our last session, we took a vote on what our next series was going to entail. And let me tell you guys, we have something special for you. What we're going to talk about is managing work-life balance. I want you guys to stay tuned for this next series because we're going to talk about how to maintain a positive work-life balance. We're going to talk about, hey, what is work-life balance? What does it entail? What do you even mean by that? We're going to talk about, all right, how to figure out if you have a proper work-life balance. And if you don't, we're going to talk about, all right, well, how do you have a proper work-life balance? What does that even look like? So here are the dates, and Tara just dropped in a link, or will drop in, either just dropped in or will drop in a link for you to register. So please register for our next series on work-life balance because we heard you and we're bringing it, okay? So as always, thank you guys for joining us today. We really had a great time. And don't forget to keep on learning.
Bye.